Hey everybody. So I thought that today I would change things up a little bit. I am just having kind of a lazy day. Yesterday I had a pretty big day, and so today I wanted to do a gear talk with you all, but I also am kind of being low key. So I thought that I would talk emergency preparedness in the backcountry. Um, and basically how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go through my first aid kit with you all. And I haven't looked at this in a bit, but it should be pretty up to date. So yeah, I wanted to first point out a couple tools that any backcountry user should have. And if you don't have these things, you should have comparable items. The first being a satellite GPS communication emergency beacon. I use a Garmin InReach Mini 2. I have used this for a super long time. I really like it because it's easy to use. It pairs with my cell phone. And I have used it in a ton of different scenarios. But most commonly, I use it to communicate back and forth with my husband while I don't have cell phone service and he does. Or sometimes he doesn't, and then we use Garmin to Garmin. But being able to text is really nice. Don't use this thinking that your texts are just going to send right through, because they're not going to do that. Sometimes they do, but more frequently, it takes between 20 minutes to a couple hours for a text to go through. So a good idea when you're sending text with this is very first thing is to type out the time that you're sending your text. You'll be really happy that you did, in case whoever you're texting thinks that you just sent a message. When they can see that, no, you didn't just send it like it was a while ago, that can be super reassuring, or it can make slow communication make more sense without having to explain that. So this is a great tool. I've never ever had to hit the SOS button, thankfully, but that's kind of one of the main points of these guys, is to be able to get a hold of search and rescue if shit would truly hit the fan. So always have something like that where you can get rescued if need be. Next up is bear spray. So bear spray is super key. I have never deployed my bear spray. I have pulled the pin a couple times. You can see that I use a piece of like fishing line to make it so you can pull the pin and not necessarily lose the pin. The only time that I have thought I was going to use this has been around humans. And so when I say I've pulled the pin, that's because I have felt threatened by people and wanted to be safe just in case. This is just a good tool. A lot of people talk about bringing guns into the backcountry. For almost every reason you would think you need a gun, bear spray will do the trick. So it's really handy. And I'm just looking at this now, so I'm glad I did. It expires this month, this year. So I need to replace this. All right, my last little thing I'm gonna say, have a paper map of whatever adventure you're having. I'm sure that you have the map on your phone through AllTrails or Gaia or what have you. Technology is flimsy, and so carry a paper map. If you don't know how to look at a map and read it, brush up on those skills a little bit. You don't have to be a pro, but it's really, really helpful to know how to get yourself out of a jam with a paper map. So yeah. Moving on. So this is my first aid kit. It was originally just in one of those little square yellow and blue waterproof bags that a lot of those kinds of kits come in. But that ended up kind of deteriorating after years and just wasn't big enough at the end of the day. I really add a lot to my first aid kits to kind of make them unique to our lives and our adventures. So yeah, I have moved my first aid kit into this completely submersible, waterproof, zippered pouch. It has a loop there, another loop here. The zipper is just incredibly burly. This is made by Night Eyes. And you can see it's like a very hard to pull zipper, but that's just because it's waterproof. So I guess I'm kind of just jumping right in here. This, for context, most of what I get up to is backpacking through the wilderness, a lot of off-trail travel in the alpine and subalpine, a lot of bushwhacking, backpacking on the Colorado Trail segments, backpacking on the CDT, day hikes. If I'm gonna have a big car-based adventure, I toss this in. It's a real general first aid kit, emergency kit sort of deal. I put the red duct tape on either side. That is so that this is more visible. But because of what this Night Eyes pouch is made out of, you could also peel off the duct tape and use it. So this leaves the integrity of the adhesive when you pull the duct tape off. So hopping right in here, I can already see right off the bat, I've got two little individually wrapped wool packets. And these, I believe, are from Wuru wool. And they are for blisters. So essentially, if you have merino wool socks, and you're having like a hot spot on your foot, you can kind of stick these where that hot spot is happening, like between your foot and the sock, and it'll kind of rework itself into the sock to make extra padding. So really great blister prevention, and I know that there's a handful of companies putting these out now, but that's the first thing in my kit. First thing I saw. Second thing that I see is one zip-locked moleskin. I prefer the wool. John, my husband, prefers moleskin if you would get a blister. Then we have a small bag of Lactaid. So sometimes people eat dairy that shouldn't be eating dairy, and so Lactaid can be really helpful there. You never know when pizza might be calling your name after a long day or something. Ibuprofen, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be more of that in here. Sometimes I think whenever I have to get like a new bottle of ibuprofen, like, well, I should just right away put some of that in my first aid kit and don't even check if there's any in there. 4 tampons. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, although other than managing periods, they can be really nice fire starters. They can be really nice in like a handful of scenarios, I guess. Google it. Tampons can come in really handy, so I have 4 of them. And then I have 2 rubber bands, you just never know, and a lighter. And then I have Neosporin, little roll of duct tape, tube of Benadryl. I am allergic to ant bites, ant saliva. And so Benadryl for me is something I commonly have to take. It's absolutely crucial that it's in my kit. And yeah, so I have that tube of Benadryl. And then in this little bag, I have another little bag of Benadryl. It's so important to me that I have Benadryl. So also in this little bag, there are some sealed gloves, a couple afterbite ointments. That kind of adds relief to bug bites or stings. I have Bleed Stop. This, if you get a cut and there is a problem with bleeding, this is a powder and you pour it on the wound. I also carry a packet of this in my wallet. I have a packet of this in the glove box of my car. Anywhere that you might keep extra things, I keep Bleed Stop around. I had watched a show, and I don't remember what channel it was, maybe Discovery or something, where they had shown this just catastrophic bike accident where somebody severed an artery, and the cyclist would have died if his companion didn't have Bleed Stop. And this isn't like a miracle, but I mean, sometimes you just need to stop the flow of blood, and that is what this can help do. So I have Bleed Stop. And then I have this little syringe. I don't really know why, but you never know. I feel like these are sometimes just useful. And at some point this came in a first aid kit. And I just held on to it and put it in this one. This is not like the most common thing you might see in a first aid kit, but I just leave it in here and I think that it's important to say. I keep birth control. 1 packet of birth control in my first aid kit. That is for if I forget to pack it. That is for if I drop one somewhere in the woods. You know what I mean? Just sometimes you need that birth control pill. So keep that in there. And I like live my life in Ziploc bags when it comes to this first aid kit. So there's a couple Ziploc bags full of stuff in here too. I have a tick key. This is just a little tool that really effectively removes a whole entire wood tick without leaving the head in your body. I've used this a handful of times. This also works on dogs if you would need to remove a tick from your dog. And then I have hair shears. These are just scissors. And the reason that I like hair shears as my first aid kit scissors is that they tend to be a lot more sharp than just general scissors. And then I just like how they feel. The blade is small. You can bring this size of a blade on an airplane. And they're also really lightweight. I think that was the main thing I wanted to point out. Hair shears tend to be super lightweight because cosmetologists are working with them all day long and their hands would get tired. So they're ergonomical and really lightweight. So this is like the big Ziploc. And in here, I have an unopened ace bandage. I have, oh my God, a lot of stuff. I have gauze pads, a little handful of them, and then a couple smaller gauze pads, and then handful of Band-Aids. When it comes to Band-Aids for a backcountry first aid kit for what I'm dealing with here, I get the Band-Aids made out of fabric. they tend to hold up so much better than whatever that plastic material that some Band-Aids are made out of. Or like the clear plastic waterproof Band-Aids. I don't think that they work nearly as nice as those fabric Band-Aids. So also in here is a little roll of toilet paper. Self-explanatory. Sometimes nature calls and you're not expecting it. Again, it could also be a fire starter if it had to be. More moleskin. This is like one of those, well, it's a couple of them, a few of them. These are like those little Band-Aids to close very deep wounds. I have a handful of those. And then I have some big safety pins. I'm like holding those really dumb. Big safety pins. Bunch of little safety pins. And then a little handful of bobby pins. And essentially the different size safety pins and the bobby pins, I don't even necessarily know what I would use those for, just that in everyday life they come in really handy for different things. And so I assume, other than holding the ace bandage in place with the safety pins, I assume that there's a ton of different applications for them. I've just thankfully never had to use them in the backcountry. So yeah, that is my very, very basic, very general first aid kit. I use this kit regularly, but I only use some things in it regularly. I use the scissors a lot. I use the lighter a lot. I use the tick key if I have to use the tick key. I have Benadryl frequently. And then for like little cuts and stuff, the Band-Aids are great. I've not ever had to use anything more serious than Band-Aids when I'm out in the wilderness doing anything. I'm going to knock on wood here. Well, like particle board. Because I think so many of us can say the same thing, you know, that we plan for emergencies, but it's never happened. But it's good to always be prepared. It's good to be prepared before you actually need to be prepared. I think that's the key when you're thinking about putting together a first aid kit. There are a lot of other things that could be in here, and going through it, I kind of have things run through my mind. I would maybe want something specific for making a splint, but typically where I'm adventuring, that wouldn't be a problem. There's also a lot of other gear in my backpack that could be used to make a splint. So in general, for me, this kit is great. I have a much bigger one in my car for car-based things, although I would pretty much pick out of this if it was just like a little minor emergency. So yeah, this is the kit. These are some essentials that I think everyone ought to have, because it will mean that you might not have to use this if you have these things. So yeah, I hope that all of you have a super good day. I am so excited to just kind of relax today and then get up to some really fun adventure tomorrow. So yeah, have a good one, guys.